Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. I go Premanande, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Shri Harinam Mantra Ki, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki, go Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haripa, Hari Prabhu, harmonium. Gopal, Madanga. Sitapa, kartals, and tambourines. For the Hare Krishna singers. For the Hare Krishna dancer. Everybody in France. All over Europe. All over the world. Okay, now just a little hard work if you don't mind. I know it's the end of the day, but if you need to stand up, just let's do that. Let's stand up for a minute and stretch. I'll show you a good stretch. Just put your hands together like this. Web your fingers together and then push outwardly like this. And keep your shoulders kind of down. And then lift up overhead and stretch towards the ceiling. Try to touch the ceiling with your palms. Okay, come back down again. And now change the webbing. Move over one finger so it's slightly different. Push outwardly. Keep the elbows straight out and then lift up all the way to the ceiling. And this time as you're reaching up high, take an inhalation and then on the exhalation say, Go Ranga. Go Ranga! One more time, Go Ranga. Go Ranga! One more time to try to scare the neighbors down the road. Go Ranga. Go Ranga! Go Premanande Haribol. So, can we turn the projector back on again? It's already there. Okay. So the first question of the 4 questions is, What is my purpose? Just try saying that.
What is my purpose?
And now that you've asked the question, you have a booklet, I hope. Everyone get one?
Yes.
And do you have a pen?
Yeah.
Okay, if you don't, we'll run down to the corner store and get you one.
1 hour away.
Either that, or we'll make one out of tree bark. Okay, so what I would like to do, if possible, is find a blank space next to this seminar in your book, and writing down what is my purpose is a lofty request. Therefore, start with what are my priorities, and try to write down at least 3 priorities. Now, let me just give a little. Well, actually, I won't give a preface to it. Just try it now. What are the 3 things you consider most important in your life right now? And just write them down. Don't worry about getting them in perfect order. You can do that later, and you can write more than 3, but write down as many as you can think of now that are main priorities, and just get them down in writing. In the meantime, somebody who has a smartphone, as you all keep writing, somebody look up the word priority. Divyanam Prabhu's doing it, in case anybody else went for their smartphone. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Take 30 more seconds. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, Divyanam Prabhu, please read the definition of priority.
Status established in order of importance or urgency. So, or there's.
Where does it come from? Where's the word come from?
It's national independence takes part. So the example is it
example,
comes from precedence.
Yeah.
Presidency.
Oh, precedence.
And synonyms.
No synonyms. Etymology.
Oh, here. Okay. Origin 1385 from Middle Latin prioritatum, nom prioritas, fact or condition of being prior, from Latin prius, see prior. Prioritize is first recorded in 1973.
Okay, did you write down some priorities? You still absorbed? Work with me, people. You still there?
Yeah.
Okay. So, United States of America, the idea about starting a independent country and having certain kinds of rights, the idea came from a document called the Magna Carta. That document is displayed in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And you can go and look at the original document. Someone took the trouble to write it down. Penmanship is immaculate. And based on that, there were a group of people who got together a little over a couple hundred years ago and decided to write down their priorities in their life, or what would be the most important aspects of a country, civilization, where people could try to reach their full potential. And they wrote that down in the Constitution. That's also, the original document is there, displayed in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. I've gone to see it several times because I find it profound that as living beings, especially in human form, we have the ability to set our own course, but it requires a little bit of thought. But as I pointed out before, oftentimes people don't take time to think about it. They just cruise through the whole lifetime and end up not getting exactly where they want to be, getting to where they want to be. When we take time to decide what we want and write it down and what our priorities are, what the direction we'd like to go in is, and we write it down on paper, then it's starting to manifest already, because it starts as a subtle energy, thought, desire, and then it becomes grossified by writing it down. It's actually manifest in the outer world in pen and ink. Pen and ink, in ink, on paper. It's a thing that's becoming manifest. From that document, you could order your life. You have many decisions to make, right? Say yes.
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 So when you're making the decisions, if you have a Magna Carta or a Constitution to refer to, you're a lot better off. In fact, the whole legal system in the United States is based on Constitution and the Bill of Rights that came after it. People thought of a lot more things that should be included, so they put an addendum on. And they wrote it down. It has to be written. So once it's written down, then there's a whole legal system where you can say, well, it's in the document. We have to refer to the document because that's what we decided to do. And that was able to hold together a country for a little over a couple hundred years. I'm not sure about what's going to happen next, but we'll see. In a similar way, for a complete human life, it's important to have our own Magna Carta, important to have our own Constitution. And in deciding what our purpose is, starting with what are my main priorities, and then refining them and pushing to the top, what is most urgent for me? What is my highest priority? And I did this during the pandemic because we had a little extra time on our hands when they said at first, then we got busier, that you can't go anywhere, you just have to stay in. And also it looked like maybe the whole world would fall apart rather quickly or something like that. So I figured maybe it was a good time to write these things down. And I just sat down with a legal pad and a pen and started writing priorities. And I found that just by doing that and then reordering them as I was moving about, started thinking, well, this one's more important than that, discussing them, mostly with Nirkula because there was nobody else at the time. No, I always we talk about things together, but I just meant that we had more opportunity just to talk. So then I felt this sense of, I felt energized by it, that now I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing and what I'm supposed to not be doing because it doesn't match my purpose. So the point is that nobody else is going to do it for you. In fact, actually, that's not true. Somebody else will do it for you. And in a book I read called Art of the Start by Guy Kawasaki, he's one of the founders of the Apple Corporation. He writes in one of his directives of starting a company, he's an expert at starting companies and bringing them up to speed. He said, frame or be framed. Frame how your life is supposed to be. You're the framer. And if you don't, then someone will come along and frame it for you and say, no, you should live like this. This is what you should prioritize. So using your God-given intelligence and guidance from Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra, you can write down. You can make your own constitution. It doesn't even have to be on parchment. You can just write it on a legal pad and post it and say, this is how I live. These are my priorities, and here's my main purpose. And just as an individual exercise, it's the most important thing you can do, because then you have a direction to go in your life. Any feedback from the process of writing it down, writing your purpose down? Did you like it, or were you annoyed by it? Yes, Prabhu. Go, Paul.
I found it to be very rewarding and clarifying.
Can you be more specific?
It got it out of my head
Okay.
and made it like very clear on paper, and then it's no longer a thought process. It's much more clear to be seen and visualizing it happening as a reality.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the hardest thing you ever did, and 1 being you could have done it while you were sleeping, how was it?
I would say it was about an 8.
About an 8. What do you think made it so difficult?
The difficulty was actually being completely 100% honest.
Did you notice, I'm just comparing notes with you, that it seems a little fierce, it seems a little dangerous to actually identify what your main purpose is, because then you might have to adhere to it. Was that part of what you meant by it's an 8?
Yes.
So this is clarifying, because I may live a life of distraction. And this causes what's known as cognitive dissonance. There's a sense that I should be doing something and I don't. Smokers have it because they hear everywhere. In fact, they even see on packages in India now, they have pictures of people with lung cancer, on an operating table. Practically, not practically. It's what they show, and there's warning signs everywhere. And then somebody will smoke, and then they're thinking, I shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Or another classic one is listed where people, they have pets and they love pets and they say, I'm a pet lover, but then they eat some kind of meat, so then they keep thinking like, this is kind of weird, but forget it. We'll deal with it later. This idea of just forget it, that's ignorance, otherwise known as ignorance. So when we ignore our purpose, which is to serve Krishna and get ready for death and so forth, like Parikshit Maharaj did, then there's darkness, and there's a sense of anxiety, cognitive dissonance, 2 things going at the same time. I'm doing one thing, but I should be doing another, and I know I should deep inside. So this identifying the purpose, Tato Brahma Jignasa, ask yourself the question, what is my ultimate purpose? And then get it clear, and then face it. This is liberating. It gives us this power to move forward in life with a clear understanding of this is what's most important. Other comments or questions? Yes, Prabhu. Mike going all the way to the back through cooperation and teamwork. Tech support.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you very much for this presentation. Regarding writing, one senior Prabhu was giving a story when he was attending some course with a teacher in India. I think it was in Sanskrit language or something, but he was saying this teacher was leading this course, in a Vedic way, where he told them, banned them to write down, but just to hear, and by hearing, because previously the knowledge was transmitted by only sound and not by writing. So he wanted them, he deliberately wanted them not to write. So my question is, what do you think is there about this difference when we write down something, or we just hear and it stays in the memory just by hearing? Because by writing, when we hear something and we write down, the part of our attention is on writing. And
Yeah, that may be true if you're taking a lot of notes and not listening, but this is kind of a directed exercise. Tejas Prabhu, who was Prabhupada's secretary for a long time and got a lot of personal instruction from him, told me once that Prabhupada said, remembering in Kali Yuga means writing it down. And he always insisted that he write down everything the instructions he was giving him. Did you write it down? Did you write it down? Write it down. And I saw in the museum in Vrindavan a few weeks ago when we were there, Prabhupada's room, there's a little notebook, exact same size as this. It's actually a little smaller, Prabhupada's one. And it's got a little pen next to it. And you can see 8 or 10 items Prabhupada wrote down of what his priorities were in a little book just like this. That's why I have a little book like this. I got a pen too. And there's no harm in it. We have Bhagavatam written down. I certainly need to refresh by looking at the written word on a regular basis. And either way is okay. Listening intently and trying to remember. But mostly I find, like this is an anecdote, but after a class in Los Angeles, it was an epic class, and I had taken copious notes. That's how I like to do in classes. And afterwards, I was standing in the prasadam line with a godbrother and a godsister, and they all said, that was a fantastic class. And I said, which part did you like the best? And they said, I don't remember anything. I just know it was nice. But and they appreciated the fact that I had all the things in writing. So, there is a case to be made where you can just distract yourself by writing and not actually listen. So both things could be applied, and both have their application at various times, I think. There's no absolute on either side, which is my position on most things. Okay, Prabhu, yes. Shantama.
So I noticed a couple things. The first one was that after I wrote my priorities down, it felt like they had more legitimacy. Like before, maybe I wasn't sure if they were worthy things to pursue, but then seeing them in writing, I felt more confident that they were like legitimate.
Try this.
goals.
Take it out of the book and get a little frame for it. And then you put it on the wall. And then see what happens. This is a real thing.
Yeah.
You take your priorities and you put them on the wall in like a gold frame. And then see how everybody reacts to it. Like, wow. And then you'll notice yourself, like, yeah, this is my thing. This is what I do. That's the Magna Carta effect. Everybody should have a personal Magna Carta. Otherwise, who's ruling your program? Who's framing it for you? You frame it yourself based on your God-given intelligence and the Sadhu Shastra and Guru, and then put it up there and say, this is my thing. This is my provenance. This is how I roll. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, more?
And the second thing I felt is after writing it down and then looking at it, that I feel a greater sense of responsibility to do something about it.
Yes. And that's partly why I was saying before, I might avoid doing it. And that causes cognitive dissonance, which creates a malaise. Malaise means that I have a general sense of unease or anxiety. And I know where it's coming from exactly. I just always feel an anxiety. Does anybody Resonate with that? With 2 or 3 people?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
But when we clarify, it's like, what am I actually supposed to be doing? Then we become connected with our purpose. It's actually empowering. Yes, Madhva Prabhu.
There is one chilling aspect of
A
this.
chilling aspect. This is good.
Yes, because after, I mean, the endeavor to write it down, it could be a serious challenge, because oftentimes we have only small goals, not insignificant, not in which really, I mean, like, it's a useless, daily, mundane, for example, most of the people. But if we manage to put it down, then the chilling part is that then we become sober, and we realize that we need to work for it. It's because usually we have this stupid attitude that somehow things are gonna work, you know, things will happen, you know, like, I hope for the best. I mean, like, but this is stupid attitude, this optimism is idiotism, actually. It's so when we write it down and then we understand, come on, this is not coming just by chance like this, just wasting my time and waiting for the bingo or something to happen. So this is the.
I don't think you win much in bingo these days.
This is a little bit like when you put it down, then it hits you, and then you need to think of some plan how to make it happen.
Yes. So Prabhupada wrote 7 purposes of ISKCON. He thought about it very carefully. They're succinct, nothing extra, everything perfectly in place. It covers all the various aspects. And now we, as his followers, have a directive. We understand what's his purpose. And this is the parampara. We understand what are the priorities, because you can't do everything, so you should prioritize and find the most important things to do. We also find, as we're discussing, and we'll discuss over the next several days, the Panchangam Bhakti. What's that? There's 64 items of devotional service. You can try to do them all the time, or Mahaprabhu prioritizes 5 for us and says, out of all the 64, here's 5 that are so powerful that if you just have a little contact with these, which is what most people are able to do, have a little contact with devotional service. But if you have contact with these 5 priorities, then you're going to come out on the top of the process. Prabhu, last point, because the bell's ringing.
Can we get the mic?
We get the mic all the way at the back. We have a closer in the back.
Hi. So once we have decided what our priorities, and we have checked out that they have deep meaning, and it's something that we really want, and we transcend our superficial desires, then how do we deal with the distractions and the things that puts us away from what we want to get, like addictions, habits, bad habits, people that we have to take care, situations that are important in the material world and that takes our time? How do we deal with that?
The first point is you have to understand what you really want to do, because until you have a clear purpose, there's no real impetus to overcome the various distractions, objects, bad habits, and so forth. But there are various ways to do it, and they start with having good association, and in that good association, getting a sadhana. And when you have a sadhana or a practice, then you have a possibility of rising. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says every living entity can rise in due course of time. And there's 2 things that you need, knowledge and practice. If you get those 2 things, based on what you're trying to do, what you're trying to reach, and as you've prioritized your life and you've found your purpose, then you move forward with courage to overcome the obstacles. And it may not be absolutely perfect, but balance doesn't look perfect either. When you see somebody balancing, they're wobbling from side to side, but they know where the center is. When an airplane flies across the country, it's off course most of the time, but it just knows how to pull back to the center. So knowing what our purpose is doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect, but it means that we know what we're supposed to be doing, and then we have the impetus and the wherewithal to actually pull back to the center and keep moving in the right direction. And if we do that and we try, then Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayanti te. I help those who are sincere and they try. That was a very generalized answer, but if you want more specific, then you see Sutapa Prabhu over here. Could you raise your hand as you know who you are? This devotee here with effulgence coming from the wall. You approach somebody who's very successful, who has organized his or her life in such a way that you say, wow, I want to be like you. And then just ask, like, can I have some guidance from you personally? If you find that, then you'll be able to move forward with a mentor. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, everybody. This is the first part of the 4 questions. There's a small card here. It's written in sort of generic terms, not because it's something that I'm promoting widely in corporate audiences and things like that. So you'll notice, but it has the 4 questions on it, and we're going to go over them over the next 3 days. There's actually 3 or 4 days. There's 4 questions, and today was sort of a preamble. Would you say D1 also, please? Yes, I have. Oh, thank you. And now Divyanam Prabhu has special announcements.
Hare Krishna. How was that session? Great. Haribol. So this evening we are taking a little break now for the next 20 minutes or so. We'll meet back at 6:30 for a kirtan, which will go all the way to 7:30. However, at 7:15 we have requested the kitchen team today to see if we can, because we have some children, and so anyone with the children would like to take care of their prasadam, it will be served here. The dinner prasadam will be served here. Because of some logistic challenges which we came across today working with the team here, we felt it is better if we ate the breakfast and the dinner prasadam, the light dinner prasadam here, and the lunch prasadam will be served there. Because in the morning we come for the Bhagavatam class, then it will be easier. We just have the breakfast here and we join the session here in the morning. And the same is with the dinner. So it will be served from 7:15 for the children. With the parents can go and serve your children. And then 7:30 when we finish the kirtan this evening, which will be with Havi Prabhu! Haribol! So a couple more announcements. We also have someone's birthday today. Somebody very special from the UK Yatra. We have Guru Shakti Mataji. It is his birthday today, so can we? You wouldn't sing Hare Krishna Mataji. I know you take my clap.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaeva patitam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo
wish you a very happy birthday, Guru Shakti Mataji. I just want to thank her because she has been a great pillar of our success for our Sankirtan movement back at Bhaktivedanta Manor. Along with her many services, she helps us